Getting it real with RealChunWai on the hottest topics, frank, engaging and candid. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Perikatan Nasional is set to ensure it keeps Kelantan, Terengganu and Kedah. It has now set its eyes on Selangor, the jewel in the crown. What's the game plan for Perikatan Nasional? Let's hear it from BERSATU Youth Chief and the MP for Machang, Ahmad Fayhsal. Salam bahagia Malaysia and followers from around the world. Welcome to another edition of the RealChunWai show. Today we have a very special guest, the BERSATU Youth Chief and the MP for Machang, Fayhsal, who is here to take on the questions which you want to ask. So let's dive on to the conversation. YB, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm good, Chunwai. A pleasure to have me here in this session.
I know that you've been busy traveling around the country, crisscrossing the nation as the state election for the 6 states gets into action. Even before nomination day, it's already real hot. Okay, so YB, can you tell us how has the campaigning been like so far? Okay, even before nomination day, you have been meeting people, you have been meeting supporters. We'd like to know, okay, as voters, what is Perikatan Nasional offering? Why is it different from this Pakatan Harapan? And why should voters vote for your coalition?
Yeah, it's a very poignant question you asked there. Basically, I believe Malaysia deserves a coalition that walk the talk. And as you can see, well, perhaps some might argue the current government, the coalition, so-called Kerajaan Perpaduan or unity government, is the one that can stable the politics of this country. But I beg to differ on that aspect. I believe it's a matter of time before such coalition breaks down. And that's why Perikatan Nasional has always been ever ready to take the mantle to lead the country forward for the next 5 years. But of course, all those are subjected to how well we perform in these coming state elections. And the campaigning so far is quite positive due to, if you ask me, the weaknesses exhibited by the current government. There's so many issues surrounding their governance, lack of direction, and also, as we all know, the current government, despite the promises made by the Prime Minister himself, there are telling signs where he basically do not own to what he's talking about. For example, appointing his own deputy prime minister who's facing 47 charges in court of justice. So such situation will definitely spell trouble for the coalition if things go wrong when it comes to the cases of the current deputy prime minister. And we have not talked about the current minister of human resources who's facing a serious investigation by the MACC. So yeah, that sort of issues do help us in campaigning for the state elections.
But we have a situation in Malaysia where almost every other party seems to have someone who has been investigated by the MACC for some cases, or they have been charged in court. So given this scenario where almost practically every party has somebody or some leader who has been charged, and that includes the Buddha president, how do Malaysians then react to all this very clouded situation where everybody says that they are against corruption, and yet they have somebody in their party who is facing one charge or another?
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny that. For example, BERSATU also currently facing at least 2 court cases involving our top leaders. One of it, of course, Tan Sri Yassin, our president, and the second is our former information chief, YB Wan Saiful. And but I believe, and as do many others, at least among the Malay electorates, such charges are trump up charge made by the government against our leaders, just to muzzle our leaders, and also to sabotage our preparation for the state election. As we all know, currently BERSATU account is still frozen. And surprisingly, if you ask me, most Malays that I've met do not buy the stories about the charges against Muhyiddin. I think this will spell a good sign for us in this coming state elections.
Yeah.
And for example, also, as we are fresh from the oven today, what Sanusi been facing in the court of law will definitely embolden Perikatan Nasional forward in this coming state elections.
YB, you mentioned that the frozen accounts of BERSATU. So given the fact that the accounts have been frozen, would you have financial issues in facing the campaign for these 6 state elections that they will need money? So how do you handle this?
Yes, definitely we are facing a bit of challenge when it comes to spending our resources, especially for BERSATU. But God willing, Alhamdulillah, we have PAS with us, because as you all know, PAS is a party that is strongly supported by our grassroots members. And PAS traditionally has always been prepared to face any elections, because every time they finish, wrap up the general election, they will always prepare for 5 years in terms of their finance, or how to oil the machinery. So when now we are together as a coalition, PAS do support us. At the same time, BERSATU leaders also, some of them are seasoned politicians. They have been there for quite some time. And we also have a sizable number of members, and they all contributed to our upcoming campaign. So we are not too worried, because, for example, we will still be using the same campaign material, flags, shirts, caps, all the merchandise that we use to campaign are still being with us. And I don't see that pose a big question or issue for us. And I believe that with the resurging support of the rakyat, for us, I think that will definitely help us further in raising some funds for our campaign.
The reality of Malaysia is that the voters, the population, is increasingly predominantly Malay. I think the statistic shows that 70% of the population are Malays, Muslim Bumiputra, while Chinese has gone down to 20-25% or less. Okay, Indians are very, very small. So the landscape has changed a lot, and it will be a factor to be considered even now in the future politics of Malaysia. Now, I just want to hear from you. What are the issues that are of importance to Malay voters, because they will be deciding the pattern in Malaysia and even in these state elections. So there's been a lot of talk that Malay voters feel very insecure. They feel threatened. There has been narrative that they feel threatened by non-Malays. But of course, from the other side of the point, the Chinese also asked that why do Malays feel insecure when 90% of the 2 million civil servants are Malays. Chinese population is so small, it's not even a factor. The Malay rulers are Malays. Except for Penang, all the Menteri Besars, the chief ministers are Malays, the police, the army are all Malays. So why is it that this issue border Malays? Is it genuine concern, or is it an agenda being pushed by politicians for race and religion? Can I have your view, please?
Yeah. Well, contrary to such view, from our own survey, for example, in Selangor and many other states that are facing state elections, the number one issue affecting the Malays voters is still about bread and butter issues or rice bowl issue, cost of living. Okay. That comes at the number one for us to address during this campaign. But on top of that, as usual, Malaysian politics cannot run away from the 3R, race, religion, and royalty. And this is simply because as also happening in US, in EU,
Yeah.
identity politics still play a big role in determining the trajectory of our democracy.
Yeah.
So in Malaysia, despite all the facts that you cited just now on the overwhelming numbers of Malay institutions in civil service, in the police, and many others, I still believe Malays, when it comes to economic equity, we do feel still lagging. And of course, is a multi-dimensional issue. The problem must be dissected not from one lens. It has various point of view that need to be addressed. For example, the failure of affirmative action, the failure of NEP to a certain degree, and also the patronage system in Malay politics. So, as a member of a Malay nationalist party, we are very much focusing to address and rectify such issues so that we can narrow the gap and focus more on the pressing matter that transcends race and religion so that everyone can prosper together in this country. For example, I think, RealChunWai, I think you know very well, under Muhyiddin Yassin's government, in fact, it was endorsed during Pakatan Harapan first round of government, where the 12th Malaysian Plan is driven by BERSATU's philosophy of what we call shared prosperity 2030. Basically, that's the roadmap, the vision, the economic vision that we provided for the country. It was first announced by Mahathir when he was the Prime Minister and continued by Muhyiddin. So both PN and PH endorsed the document. And in that document is basically a more progressive affirmative action that focuses more on need-based rather than race-based. But at the same time, striving to put Malaysia becoming a middle power so that everyone will get the same or equal, not equal, equitable shares of economic cake in this country.
Maybe, you know, most of us, including myself and members of the media, they are based in Kuala Lumpur. We're familiar with Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. We're familiar with Hamzah Zainuddin. We are familiar with you. It's easy to talk to you and get to you and to understand what your coalition is all about. But for many of us, we find that it's very difficult to get to past leaders. And because of, by nature, the lack of engagement, and of course, some of the silly statements made by past MPs, which somehow will give the impression that they seems to be different, okay? Not quite in line with the moderate views of many non-Malays, okay? They get terrified when they hear of past, they're actually very terrified. And as a result, Tan Sri Muhyiddin got to come up to say that, look, if you're in power, we will not be the Taliban like Afghanistan. Now, you have dealt with past leaders. You are in an MP in Kelantan. Now, can you share with us actually, okay, why is it that we have this situation where while many are easy to interact with BERSATU, it's more difficult to interact with past leaders? Your view, please.
Well, past leaders are always open for discussion. For example, today, this afternoon, myself, Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin, Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah, and Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim, we had a courtesy call over lunch with the Japanese ambassador. And we basically ironed out all the sensitive issues raised by the Japanese, especially about the bond authority issue. And alhamdulillah, I must say that it went well. I think both sides made a very clear remark, and I think we narrowed the we dispelled the misunderstanding. That shows that PAS is not afraid to engage. Although I must say that BERSATU, being very much a Malay nationalist party rather than an Islamist party, we do have an overlapping values with PAS, but our emphasis is more a bit different than PAS. And it all boils down to the worldview of PAS and BERSATU leaders. PAS, for example, is a party that emphasizes on the how to project Islam as a just religion for everyone. So that's why their manifesto, their policy in Kelantan, Kedah, and Terengganu, and Perlis for that matter, are basically involving not merely economic, but also social policy. And of course, some of these policies might be estranged to non-Muslims in West Coast of Malay Peninsula, for example. But I can't blame both sides because, as I said, the different worldview that creates such tension and misunderstanding. But as time goes by, I believe if we have more dialogue and engagements, I think both sides can find middle ground to understand each other well, and BERSATU ready to assist that.
Now I'll come back to the issue of you mentioned bread and butter. I think that that's one issue that crosses across. It's like all races, all religion. Everybody feels that the pinch, okay, the pinch of the ringgit, the weakening ringgit, cost of living has gone up, and now with the latest decision by Russia, they won't allow wheat to be taken out of Ukraine, it will have a big burden around the world. Now, I just want to ask for your views, okay? These issues are important. How, if the BERSATU is in power today, what would your party be doing to address these economic issues?
Okay, first and foremost, I think BERSATU leaders will never do a flip-flop policy like what the current Prime Minister proclaims in Parliament, where he says that it's okay to flip-flop on policy as long as it benefits the people. Well, basically, that's very wrong, and that exacerbates the current issues plaguing our economy, especially our ringgit, because you create uncertainty, unnecessary uncertainties when it comes to policy. For example, I'll give you one classic example on our 5G rollout. Yeah, we have DNB, but comes new government, they try to change the agreement by bringing in new party. And I remember last week I was having a parliamentary select committee involving the EU-Malaysia Chamber of Commerce. So there is this concern to us. Even a blue chip company like Ericsson could face such flip-flop policy. What more SMEs in Malaysia? So these issues basically created by the current government, not under Perikatan Nasional. And hopefully, once if there's a chance for us to take over the government, we will stem down this problem by being firm. And another thing is to lay down a clear path for the country for the next 5 years and 10 years. And this has always been our focus when we took over the government during COVID. We diligently follow and implement 12 Malaysia plan, and that gives us and also the foreign investors more certainty about what Malaysia wants to focus. Yeah. But the current government is not doing any of that, and that's very sad. After almost 8 months, there's no clear direction about economic policy. And during the budget speech, as you can see, there's no clear framework about it. Madani is not a framework. It's just a jumbled up acronym to legitimize certain things. So that's a critique from an honest critique from an opposition like us. And of course, if you ask me what Perikatan Nasional will focus if we were to take over the government, SME would be the utmost priority. We all know how SME is a backbone of our economy, employ almost more than 50% of Malaysian in the country and contribute to Malaysian coffer. So without having a strong policy to revive and strengthen SMEs during this troubled time, Malaysia can never be revived in terms of economic performance in this very challenging period where we have war in Ukraine and also the hawkish policy of Federal Reserve in the US. So BERSATU is very clear about it, and with Perikatan Nasional, we're going to be very firm on this matter.
What is the outreach of Perikatan Nasional to the young voters, the youth? Because in these 6 state elections, there will be a very crucial votes, okay? How has the interaction with the young voters been like?
Judging from the trend in the social media, especially TikTok, I think the support is still very high, especially around the Malay belt, simply because we have, a very outspoken leaders like Sanusi, for example. And also on top of that, given the current batch of MPs in Perikatan Nasional, we have quite a sizable number of young MPs below 40. So
Okay.
that gives us a bit of an edge in terms of showcasing how we are supporting the youth in terms of policy making. And I'm also quite excited. I'm also waiting for our main committee to announce the offerings and manifestos for all 6 states. But definitely the focus to develop our youth employment and economy and entrepreneurship will be one of the major pillars in these manifestos.
What is your view of Muda as the third force? What would be its impact to both PH and PN?
Muda, despite it is small in number and size, can create a problem to us in certain marginal seats that we are contesting. For example, Skinchan, Sungai Pelik, Sri Setia. But I don't foresee Muda going to be a major challenge compared to Harapan or Barisan.
Yep.
So what we would need to do is to ensure that our white voters are very much taken care, and we just want a high turnout so that we can overwhelm or drown the support that might be given to Muda and Harapan or Barisan. So yes, we do have our own strategy to neutralize Muda's effectiveness in such areas.
Now in Selangor, which is the jewel in the crown, this Pakatan, they had this majority of over 50 in their last election. Now, in this particular state election, of course, PN is giving PH a big fight in Selangor. So in terms of importance, in terms of focus, what is the PN's big fight in Selangor?
Well, definitely, of course, you think you understand PN will cruise smoothly in Malay dominant areas, especially northern Selangor, Tanjung Karang, Sabak Bernam, Kuala Selangor, and the rest. I think that wouldn't pose a huge challenge to us. But for the marginal seat, like for example, Skinchan, Sungai Pelik, it would be a bit challenge, but BERSATU has our own strategy in order to wrest this seat from DAP especially, maybe by fielding Malay candidates and also to win over the Indian voters' support, and also by championing and perhaps in one of our offering would be to have our own homegrown Selangorian chief minister. And today, the Prime Minister had announced he will endorse Amiruddin, who is a Johorian, to continue his second term as Chief Minister of Selangor. So if they won't change the candidate, I think Perikatan Nasional will definitely have an advantage if we can project a true blues or true red Selangorian as the Chief Minister candidate.
Now, I want to ask you about Gerakan. I can see the strength of BERSATU, the strength of PAS. It's evident. But what can you say about Gerakan? Many voters see Gerakan's position in the PN as just tokenism. What can really Gerakan deliver, especially in Penang?
Well, you're right. Gerakan has been facing a lot of challenges when it comes to getting non-Malay vote, especially. But I believe with the current environment and also climate, if Gerakan can communicate well to their traditional voter base, especially in Penang, things might be different this time around. Maybe they weren't able to wrest most of the strongholds currently held by DAP. But if Gerakan were to fight, for example, Barisan, with the support of us, Perikatan Nasional, BERSATU and PAS, I think they could stand a chance to win few seats in Penang and other places. And I'm not too worried about it because it's a team effort. I know sometimes Gerakan lack the machinery and support for their campaign, but we have passed. We have BERSATU members who are sincere and always ready to help and boost the chance of Gerakan to win some seats in this coming state election. I disagree with the view that Gerakan is just a tokenism. No, I think Gerakan has a lot to offer, and they had just concluded their party election where Dr. Dominic retained the presidential seat, and hopefully with this renewed mandate by Gerakan members, we can go and enter into this election with more positivity, and hopefully we can win few seats for Gerakan.
One final question, YB. What role will Dr. Mahathir be playing in this election for PN?
He's the Tun Mahathir, Dr. Mahathir. And he now plays a role as an elderly statesman. He's not holding any positions in any party. That will bolster his credential in his campaign, especially when it comes to the Malay proclamation. And I believe he will be able to swing the fence-sitters, especially the veteran voters, former civil servants. And but our engagement with Tun Mahathir is arm's length. He's not part of Perikatan Nasional, but we acknowledge and recognize his strength, and we just let him do his job in campaigning.
That's an interesting answer, arm's length, but you will be welcome to accept this help. So, YB, what is your message to voters, okay, in these 6 states ahead of nomination day? Can I have the last say from you? A message to listeners.
To all Malaysian voters from these upcoming state elections, treat this state election as a national referendum. Regardless whether you support Perikatan Nasional or not, it doesn't matter. What important is to send a strong signal to the government that such arrangement cannot be sustained anymore. The Prime Minister must govern and cannot just simply campaigning. He must prove to the rakyat that he possesses such leadership as a Prime Minister. We have been waiting for him for almost 20 years, and yet we're still waiting for him to become Prime Minister after 8 months. So use this opportunity to show our strong either support towards Perikatan Nasional or detest against the current government. And I believe, as all issues in Malaysia, democracy is the best platform to resolve it, politically speaking. And these are the opportunities given for once in every 5 years, and hopefully results will be something beneficial for all Malaysians.
Thank you, YB. I really appreciate that you take time off from busy campaigning to give your views and your discourse. To all Malaysians, I really appreciate that for supporting this civil, rational discourse which strengthens democracy. So in short, democracy is all about alternative views and views open to everyone. YB, once again, thank you. Hope to see you again as we go into action over the 14 days. And we want you to come back again to this show. Thank you so much, Malaysia and people from around the world. Please share, like, and support this program. Thank you. Cheers, YB.
Thank you, RealChunWai.